Hello, this is Angela Johnson Ayers, your host of the podcast, Life Cannot Wait. Thank you for joining me. I have a question for you. Are the people that you surround yourself with, are you celebrated in their eyes or are you tolerated? That's a question for you. That's what we're going to talk about today. Are you celebrated by those that you surround yourself with, or do they just tolerate you? You know, I heard that many years ago. I heard someone say, be around people who celebrate you and get very far away from those who tolerate you. And there's a difference. And so I want to touch on it today because we live in a day and a time where many people are extremely experiencing a lot of loneliness for whatever lot in life you may be. You know, I remember when I was unmarried, I was extremely lonely. I allowed loneliness to, many cases, put me in situations where I was surrounded by people who tolerated me rather than celebrated me. I put myself in those situations many times. You know, I notice a trend, you know, a lot of times when I'm on social media or just talking to other individuals, is people are so quick nowadays to say, well, this person did this to me and this person. You're always looking at the other person, but you're not taking a retrospect in yourself and saying, wait a minute, what is in me that is allowing me to either be celebrated by others or tolerated? So before we even talk about are you being celebrated or tolerated in your friendships, in your dating relationships, even within your own self, are you celebrating yourself or are you tolerating yourself in areas in your life? First, we need to define what it means. According to the English Oxford Dictionary, celebrated means to be greatly admired, to be honored, or to be praised. Okay? To celebrate something or someone means to acknowledge, to praise publicly. You know, for example, we celebrate birthdays, right? That's that person's day they were born. So we lift them up. We give them presents. We do things to let them know we appreciate them, to encourage them, that they're honored. The Merriam-Webster dictionary defines to celebrate someone as to say that someone is great or important, to praise someone. That's what celebrated means. Now let's talk about what it means if you're being just tolerated. Now listen to this. On dictionary.com, it defines tolerated as to endure, to put up with, to bear, to stomach, to deal with, to allow, to swallow, to suffer. The Mobile Dictionary defines tolerate as, if you're using it as a verb, it means if you tolerate a situation or person, you accept them, although you do not particularly like them. Wow. Total dichotomies, total opposites between celebrated and tolerate. You celebrate someone, you admire them, you honor them, you praise them. But to tolerate someone, it means you're just putting up with them, you're enduring them. Now, and so let's talk. First, let's talk from the viewpoint of, I hate the word victim, but the person you are one who's settling. You're allowing yourself to be tolerated. Before I go any further, I want to explain, when you're celebrated though, please do not think that when you be around people who celebrate you, that does not mean that you have to be around people who are always telling you how wonderful and fabulous you are. Okay? A true friendship, a true relationship, when you're celebrated, you're around someone, although they may praise you and honor you, they also will give you honest feedback, but they would do it in a loving way where it's not to just tear you down and leave you down. Do you understand what I'm saying? To be celebrated doesn't mean that people are going to co-sign your foolishness. You know, it's funny because I see that in many cases, particularly in relationships, in marriages, a lot of times the woman, you know, we'll come home and we'll complain to our husbands about what this situation is going on, that situation is going on. And some women get angry if the husband does not say, well, baby, you're right. She's wrong, you know, or whatever the situation is. No, a lot of times these women want their husbands or their mates to co-sign foolishness. And I tell my husband, look, dude, if I'm wrong, don't co-sign my foolishness. Tell me, Point it out. Even though I know my husband loves and adores me and he celebrates me, but just because you celebrate me, basically, I don't need you kissing my hind when I'm wrong. To celebrate someone doesn't mean that you co-sign their foolishness and you let them continue to just walk out into the street and get hit by a car. You understand what I'm saying? When you celebrate someone, you want them to be emotionally healthy, mentally healthy. You want them to be physically and spiritually healthy. So if there is a truth that you need to present to them, if you're in a relationship, a healthy friendship, a healthy relationship, just because someone is your friend and you're celebrated, please don't think that celebrated means people have to always agree with you or people have to always tell you how wonderful you are. See, that's something that we deal with nowadays, not only in relationships and friendships, but also in many churches, where if the preacher does not preach those itching ears, if the preacher is not preaching, everything's going to be all right, you're always going to be blessed, wonderful, wonderful, you're always on the mountaintop, then people don't want to hear that. They want to go to another church where they're always going to hear that. You have to always hear truth. And with truth, there is a negative and a positive. But when you get that negative, it doesn't leave you down there. It will allow you, it helps pick you up to encourage you, to motivate you, to cultivate you, to bring you up. So please don't think, again, you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, so-and-so told me that I need to work on my attitude. They're not celebrating me. They're trying to change me. No, maybe she's right, or maybe he's right. Maybe you do need to work on your attitude. That doesn't mean he or she is trying to tear you down. It means he or she really celebrates who you are and wants to see you better. Now, an example, and now let's move on to the opposite, the dichotomy of it, which is to tolerate. Basically, it means that you're just being stomached. And you might be saying to yourself, well, how do I know when I'm being celebrated, when I'm being tolerated? I can guarantee I would be willing, if I was a betting woman and if I had the money to bet, I would bet that you know in your knower. You can feel it in your gut. You have an instinct in you that's telling you, I'm being mistreated. Something's not right. For example, if you're in a friendship with other females, you're female, or you're with your boys, and you're in a friendship, and only time they call you to go out is because they know you have the vehicle, or you have the fly ride, or you have all the money, and they know that you can get them into the flyest restaurants or whatever. You're not being celebrated. You're being used. You're being tolerated. You're being stomached. They're just dealing with you. They're swallowing. They're suffering through just to use you. That's an example when people just tolerate you. Or, I've had examples with people in my life where the friend they really wanted to go out to dinner with was not available. So they would call me, and in my knower, in my gut, I knew. I could just sense it. And the one thing about me, and I don't know if it's from years and years of having been rejected at a young age by people, I have acquired, and particularly at a young age, I acquired a strong sense of being able to read people. Even though I have made bad mistakes and poor judgment many times, I knew what I was getting into. I was never blindsided. You understand? I'm not going to put that on other people and say, well, he made me marry, him, or he made me sleep with him, or whatever. I knew in my knower when I was wrong and when I was right. 99.9% of the time I did. I was not bamboozled, hoodwinked, or run amok. You understand? But, so there were times, and there have been times in my life where I just knew this person was using me. So I wouldn't fall for the okie doke in many cases. When I did fall, it's because I was lonely. You understand? So let's look at two examples of where you may either be the celebrator or the celebrated. You may be the tolerator or the tolerated. Let's first go. We talked about celebrated, where you, people lift you up. They see who you are, and they continue to praise you in spite of your imperfections. They are there for you. That's friendships, relationships that you need to be in. But let's look at yourself. Do you celebrate people, or do you just tolerate them? Are you a user? Are you one of those people? You may be single. All your other friends are married, and you're like, you know what? I'm lonely. Let me call this dude. If this is your female, let me call this dude and use him because I know he really likes me, but I'm really not digging him. But hey, if you're not with the one you love the one you're with. And so you call him and you play with his emotions and his affections, and he spends money on you to take you out. And then you don't want to fool with him. He calls you next day. You don't pick up. You're not celebrating that man. You're tolerating him. Or let's say there's a friendship or relationship, and good and well, the good Lord has shown you need to sever these ties. This is not a healthy relationship, but you're just tolerating it. You're just stomaching it. You're abusing that person, and that's not right. You need to let that go. But if your attitude is stank and you're selfish and you just are unable right now to celebrate people, I have fallen prey to that. I've had a particular friendship, and I take a lot of introspection of myself. I look at myself and I give myself, as they say, a righteous judgment. And I'm not delusional about who I am and who I have been. And there have been times where I was not the best friend to people that I could have been. Particularly one incident was after having my first child. I was not there, you all. I was going through a postpartum depression. I was going through anxiety, depression, so much. And so this particular young lady, she and I were friends. And even though she had rejection issues and she was extremely needy, in my opinion, I know there were times that I could have been a better friend to her, and I just was not. I could not be. It's not like that I wanted to tolerate her, but I had no other choice for my own survival, for my own peace of mind, because what I was going through. I could not really be the friend that she needed or thought she needed. You understand? And so, that friendship was severed. It was a relief when it was severed, because I didn't have that person constantly pulling at me when I could not give to them. And also it just allowed me to free myself so that I can really just focus in on healing and getting myself together after just having this child and all the different hormonal and emotional and psychological things I was going through that this person just couldn't relate to, because they hadn't even gotten married at the time, more or less had a child. So I know how it is to be tolerated and how it is to be the tolerator. Now let me share with you all times, where I have been tolerated by people. I'm going to give examples in female friendships, and I'm going to give examples in dating relationships. The first one was in friendships, where it's just, the friendship may start out as a celebratory friendship. You get to know each other. Everything's great. And then it's too in dating. You meet this person. They are fabulous, fine, fantastic. But as you get to know them, you're like, I'm not feeling this dude. I'm not feeling this chick, And so instead of having courage and just saying, you know what, I don't really see this relationship going anywhere. I appreciate, maybe we should just either cut ties or just not try to do each other in a more romantic type of way. You either leave them on or you have to sever it. But for me, in certain friendships, I have been tolerated by people because they would say things like, well, Angela, that's just how she is. She got a bad temper. Growing up all my life, I had anger issues. I was very angry from a little child. To this day, I don't know why. I may never really know the root of why I was angry. But I know now, after counseling and talking to specialists and my husband and other people, that I needed some help at the time. I'm a 46-year-old woman now, but when I was younger, it was not big, particularly in the African American community, to get counseling. And my parents did the best they could, but I wish they would have gotten me some psychological counseling to see where this root of anger was coming from. So I was always very angry. Also, I think what added to the anger was at a young age, my hair, at like around 7 or 9, my hair just started thinning and got extremely short. So, and then on top of that, I started packing on weight. So I had extremely short hair. I became overweight, extremely overweight. So by the time I was 21, I was considered by the medical charts morbidly obese. So you can understand how emotionally that took a toll on me, even subconsciously. I did not realize it, but the rejection from kids teasing me about my hair, rejection from people teasing me about my weight, it took a toll on me. So whenever I would feel rejected, that anger, that it was beyond anger, it was rage. Rage would flare up from my feet all the way up, and I would just fly off to the point where I have punched holes in walls. In my parents' house growing up, I punched holes in walls and everything. Now, had that been today, growing up, raising a child like that, I would seek out some counseling, some medical help, and if needed, a psychiatrist to prescribe some type of medication. But that did not happen in my case. Now that I'm a 46-year-old woman, and I realize, wow, for years, I have been suffering when I could have gotten some help, some medical help as far as with some type of medication, counseling, all of that. So I said all that to say this. So there was this one particular friend, or I thought she was a true friend, and she was the best kind of friend she could be to herself. We only can be who the best we can be. You understand? So I'll never forget one time, And this is when I knew she tolerated me. This is when I met my husband, and you know, not to give away who the person is, but she knew my husband. She knew him when we were dating, okay, before we got married. Larry, the husband I have today, because you know I had another husband. But anyway, so I recall her saying, he told me that she said this to him. And I don't know if she was saying this to him to sway him not to date me, if she was jealous because of her marital situation was on the rocks. I don't know what the situation was. But she told him, she said, well, I don't know if you really want to marry someone like that, because you know she's bipolar. Now that devastated me, because one, if this person had never ever showed any concern for my mental wellness or health. Second of all, I had never been diagnosed with no bipolar. I am not diagnosed with bipolar. If I was, it would be nothing to be ashamed about. I would be talking about that too, because mental illness is a real thing. I do, however, suffer from anxiety and depression. But when she said that, when my Larry at the time, he was my fiance, when he told me she said that, it devastated me, because I saw her heart was in the wrong place. Because if she really cared about my mental health, this person has known me for years on top of years. She could have talked to me years prior and said, Angela, you know, I'm concerned about your mental health. You know, you get angry so much. Maybe you have this thing going on. You should speak to someone, you know, but for her to ignorantly diagnose me when she barely finished high school, she didn't attend any college. So for her has no medical degrees at all. So for her to ignorantly diagnose me and then to say it to the man that I was getting ready to marry, showed me where her heart was. It showed me this is not a true friend. She's tolerating me. You understand? And so then I'm gonna pick up little other cues, verbal cues, nonverbal cues that she would do. And I said, you know what? This chick is not celebrating me. She's tolerating me. And so to help her out, because see, when people tolerate you, it's a burden on them too. You know how it is. You tolerate certain people and it's a burden to you. So I said, you know what, it's best that, you know, and so for thank God, she distanced herself from me. And I guess she had to choose what was best for her. I don't hold that against her. You know, it did hurt me. It hurt me the fact that she would say something like that to try to sway this man not to marry me. You know, and thank God he knew me. He knew, see, that's why, ladies and gentlemen, when you date someone, you got to be honest with them. When I met Larry, from day one, I did not lie to this man. I did not put on a facade. I knew in my knower that I could be honest with him, and I shared everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So when this person particularly would say different things to him to try to sway him not to marry me out of her own insecurities or jealousies or whatever it was, it did not even pierce him, because he was like, oh, I know about that. She told me. Oh, I knew she did that. She told me. You understand what I'm saying? So when you're with someone who just tolerates you, you know that they're just tolerating you, many times to help set them free, you may want to just distance yourself and say, you know what, this relationship, I know it's a burden on you. You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes you have to take the high road and do that. But it is a hurtful thing. Now, in a dating relationships, I have definitely been tolerated. You know, like I mentioned before, you know, I used to be 318 pounds. Thanks God I've lost weight and been able to, you know, keep it off. It's a daily struggle and battle. It requires a lot of sweat like anybody else. I had weight loss surgery in 2006. But it's 2017. And I mean, you know, I'm like anybody else now. My weight can come back any day now. You know, I have to just keep working hard at it. Am I supermodel size? No, but I'm happy with how and who I am. But for many years, having been rejected by men, a lot of men, many at the time were not into big chicks, as they called them, big girls, you know. And it really surfaced, that feeling of being tolerated really resurfaced recently, because I was watching this whole stuff going on with Usher and the young lady, she's heavyset, who is now bringing allegations that he allegedly, you know, did something with her or whatever. And it's so funny that people's reaction when they saw what she looked like, most people's reaction was, he didn't sleep with her. That big woman, that big girl, that's not his type. I mean, and that hurt me. One, because it's like, wow. So you're saying just because a female is plus size or overweight, that she's not desirable by someone? Two, you don't know what, you know, I have dated men in my past who said they weren't into thick women, as they call them, but yet in front of their boys, they say that, right? But behind closed doors, he's taking me out to dinner, for whatever reason. Some of them may have really digged me. Others may have been like, well, you know what? She's a big girl. I'm just going to tolerate her because I know I can hit it and get it from her, because big girls have low self-esteem. Oh, I've heard all of it. See, if you're one of those women where you may be plus size and you think you have to be tolerated, that's a lie straight from the pit of hell. You don't have to be tolerated by nobody based on your size. That's crazy for various reasons. One, because you are fearfully and wonderfully made in the eyes of God. Secondly, if the tables was turned, that was a big man, he wouldn't settle. How many times? I mean, look at it. Look at examples on TV, in media. You see these big plus size dudes walking around with these women looking like models. Come on now. A lot of times it's not because then you might be thinking, well, he got money. That's why she with him. That might be the case in some cases, but in many cases, some big men just carry themselves with such suave and finesse, and they got some swagger to them. And that's what a lot of women who are heavyset you have to do. You look, if whatever you want, whoever you are, whatever season you're in your life, you have to walk with your head up and walk like you love yourself. And so, but it hurt me to see how people were just saying that, oh, Usher wouldn't get no one who looked like that. For me, when I was heavier, I was tolerated in many cases. In many cases, I was celebrated. I met a lot of wonderful men who weren't into me just because I was heavy. They just liked and appreciated who I was. But there was a whole lot who did not appreciate who I was. Those people either wouldn't give me the time of day, or they would just tolerate me because they just wanted a little, they'll figure, oh, she'll sleep with me quickly, or it's something to do, But I want to encourage you wherever you are in your life. First of all, if you're one of those who have fallen victim of being tolerated and you're being mistreated and abused, you don't have to stay in that. You don't stay in that type of situation. There's always a way out. If you are in a situation where you're being celebrated, bless God. Learn from it and learn to celebrate others. I once heard an interview, and we're getting ready to shut this podcast down, but because I want to keep them shorter now. But I'll never forget, someone was saying something about Maya Angelou. And this one person was saying how whenever you left her presence, she made you feel like you were the most important person in the room. It could be 50 people in a room, this person was saying, and they said, but she would always make each individual feel like they were important. Not perfect, but important and valued. And I hope and pray that I am and become more that person. Having been rejected so much in life, I'm very sensitive to people and how they are. But I'm human, and many times I fall prey of that, because when that anger or that rejection rises up in me, the first thing I want to do is lash out. So I have to really work on that and continue. But I want to be a celebrator. And I hope and pray that you too, listening to this, can pinpoint areas where you need to work on celebrating others. Celebrate who you are. If you're in a situation where you're tolerating someone, if it's burdening you, don't just put up with them, because they can sense that. Just politely somehow try to either change your attitude, see the humanness in them, or just sever that relationship. Pray about it and sever it if you have to. And if you are a user or a tolerator, just dealing with someone, or you being abused and tolerated, you definitely don't have to put up with it. If you are dating relationships and that woman is just dating you because you have money, you don't have to put up with her. Just because she's fine as wine, there's a lot of fine women out here who will treat you like you need to be treated, sir. And ladies, you don't have to settle. Just because, you may be getting older in age, or you may not look like the Tyra Banks and the Beyoncés of today, you be the best you can be, and you realize that you don't have to settle. Thank you so much for joining me, you all, for this wonderful podcast. And I also, if you want to touch base with me, please feel free to join me. You can contact me at AngelaJohnsonAirs.com. That's www.angelajohnsonairs.com. And check out my website. And thank you again, those of you who have been buying my book, Laughter Pills for Moms, a 31-day supply. It's called Laughter Pills for Moms, a 31-day supply. I think you are going to enjoy it if you haven't picked it up. It's really a really funny and encouraging read. Until next time, you all, be blessed. And remember, life cannot wait. Take care. Bye-bye.